Okay. Namaste and good morning, everyone. Let's start our Thursday class with some prayers. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhur Swaha Tatsavitra Varenayam Bhargo Dese Dhimahi Diyo Yo Nah Prachodayat Asto Ma Sadgamya Tamso Ma Jyotirgamya मृत्योर्मा अमृतम ओम सहनावतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सवीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्वी नावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ओम शांति शांति शांति. So Shvetashvarta Upanishad, the third chapter, that's where we are seeing the elaboration on God and his true nature, even though we can never define God, but still, as human beings, only through the words we can understand something. So this great Rishi is making an effort so that we can have some idea, okay, what is the nature of God. We all get caught up in our own creation. So then doubt comes into our mind. This is God's creation. Does he get caught up also? Just like we have innumerable problems, does he face these problems? Does it affect him? So this mantra number 17 clarifies this doubt for us. So this Rishi says, Sarvendriye gunabhasam sarvendriye vivarjitam sarvasya prabhum ishanam sarvasya sharanam brihat. Sarv indriye. Sarv means all. Indriye over here means the sense organs. Gun abhasam, appears to have. So together this means he appears to have all the qualities of the sense organs. Sarv indriye vivarjitam, yet he is devoid of all the sense organs. Sarvasya, of all. Prabhum, the Lord. Ishanam, the ruler. Sarvasya, of all. Sharanam, refuge. Brihat, mighty. He appears to have all the qualities of the sense organs. Yet he is devoid of all the sense organs. He is the Lord of all, the ruler, and the mighty refuge of all. So the first line of this mantra appears in Bhagavad Gita also, chapter 13, verse number 14. You can check it out. Abhas means appearance. So God appears to have the attributes and functions of all the instruments, the sense organs of perception and even actions. And also the inner equipment, which is called a mind and intellect. But he is devoid of all attributes and equipments. So that means he remains as a non-doer. In his presence, everything happens, but he's not doing anything. The example of the electricity is very apt in this context. We all know electricity manifests as light in the bulb, heat in the heater, and sound in the music system also. But we all know that electricity is free from the bulb, heater, or the music system. Because they can have the limitations, but not the electricity. When the heater breaks down, the electricity does not cry. Okay. So none of the equipments can function without electricity, but electricity functions through all of them in whatever condition they may be in. The same thing happens with the Atma Paramatma. Then he says, God, the Lord of all. We often find that a person could be capable, but may not have the power. And we can also see a person who has the power may not be capable. For example, the boss could be inefficient in doing something, but the subordinate is very efficient with no power. But Lord is both all capable and all powerful. That's why he says God is all. He alone controls the whole universe and makes everything happen in it. Then God, the great refuge. We all know when a person is afflicted with adversity, he seeks refuge, shelter, support, help, which is called a sharan. Lord is Brihad Sharanam, the huge and almighty shelter. When it's raining outside, we take a shelter of an umbrella. But that umbrella is not sufficient if there is a storm. But on the other hand, God's shelter is there all the time from all the calamities. That is what a Brihad word means. So big that we cannot even imagine. In some of the translations of this Upanishad, there is a word Suhrid also. So Brihad means big, and Suhrid means good-hearted, because God is a Suhrid also. So whether you call it a Brihad or Suhrid, it's equally powerful. He is our well-wisher, ready to help us without any expectation. Prati upakaram anapekshyaha upakaraha karta. That is God. Ordinarily, people help others, but generally they expect something in return. Or at least a wish to be appreciated. But help given by God is unconditional. He is a true well-wisher. That's why in the Gita, in the chapter 5, verse number 29, Lord Krishna says, Suhridam sarvabhutanam gyatva mam shantim richti. When a person recognizes God as his true friend and a well-wisher, he finds a great peace. That's what God is. Well-wisher. Always there. Never get affected by any of the calamities. The next mantra gives a beautiful analogy of God's presence within us. Because God is outside us also, but God is equally within us too. There's no place where God is not. Navdware pure dehi hansaha le layate behi vashi sarvasya lokasya sathavarasya charasya cha. Navdware pure. Navdwar means 9 gates. Pure, in the city. So in the city with 9 gates, they, he embodied. Le layate moves. Bahi, outwards. Vashi, the master. Sarvasya lokasya, of the entire world. Sathavrasya, of the inanimate. The Sathavar. Charasya, of the animate. So like things which can move and things which cannot move. Movable and unmovable. Cha means and. The Supreme Self, God, who is the master of the entire world of animals and inanimate beings, is embodied in the city with 9 gates and moves outwards. Hansaha. Hansa word is, that is for the Supreme Self, Hansaha. We have seen in other Upanishads also, in this Upanishad too, Hans word with several meanings. Earlier, this Hans word referred to the Jiva who travels from one body to another and from one experience to another. Hantihi gachati iti hansaha. This moves. Hans also means a swan. Monks are called Hans. So just like a Paramhans. Because monks are like swans. See, swan looks very pure white, and monks, they have a pure mind. That's why they are called Hans. With that purity, they can discriminate between the real and the unreal. And gracefully, they just keep on walking on the path of the Dharma. That's why they are called Hans. So God is also called Hans here because he destroys ignorance and its effects. That's another meaning of Hans. Avidyam tatkaryam hantihi nashyati iti hansaha. Because God bestows the knowledge of the truth. That is the effect of the Gyan. So that's why Guru is also called a Hans. Because what does Guru do? Guru just gives us knowledge and removes our ignorance. Okay, so this Hans word in our literature has many, many meanings. So we got to understand over here, Hans means the Supreme Self. Hans. Now let's come to the city dweller, God. We studied in Katha Upanishad also, the same example in Bhagavad Gita also. Body is like a city. Why? Because it is filled with many facilities. Puryate anen iti puraha. This body is filled with the 7 ingredients. We learned that in other scriptures, especially in very much detail in Vivek Chudamani. Puryate saptadhatu bhi. What are those saptadhatu? Skin, blood, flesh, fat, bone, marrow, and semen. Saptadhatu. So puryate anen iti puraha. Or it is called a city as it has several limbs. So that's why it's called city. Puryate sarva ange pratyange iti puram. That's how our Vedas, they describe it. Millions of individuals and species live in their respective city-like bodies. And they just keep on moving, keep on doing their activities. through this city. Human body has 9 gates, 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils, 1 mouth, the genital organ, and the anus, through which the individual transacts with the world. Some authors, they call it in other scriptures, 10 gates also. They say the 10th gate is our navel, through which that fetus gets its nourishment. But that gate gets closed at birth. Upanishad mentioned 11 gates actually, if you remember. Puram Ekadash Dwaram, 11th gate. Brahmarandra, crown of the head. Most of us don't experience it. The yogis during the samadhi, they experience it. Great yogis, they know how to open that gate. And they want to leave through that gate. Okay, but in this Upanishad, he talks about 9 gates, which majority of the people are familiar with. God the Master. We human beings feel finitude, helplessness, sorrow. But Lord is the master of all. He doesn't feel this. God is the supreme master of the whole world, the inert objects and the sentient beings also. In the world, sometimes we see the inert controlling the sentient. Just like money controls people. Or the gross controlling the subtler. That means the physically strong controlling the knowledgeable. But the Lord controls both. There's nobody who can control God. Sentient, insentient, the gross and the subtle. As I told you in this chapter, he's trying to take our attention towards God, who God is. Next mantra seems to contradict what was said often in earlier mantras about God's cosmic form. Let's look at this mantra also. Sometimes these things, the subtler meanings, are explained through contradiction also. It's not to confuse us, but to expand our horizon. Verse number 19. Apani padaha javnaha grihita pashyati achakshu sashrinoti akarnaha saveti vedyam na chatasya asti vetaha tam ahu agrayam purusham mahantam. Apani padaha. See, pani means hands, pad means feet, means without. So without hands and feet. Javnaha, moves. Grihita, grasps. Pashyati, sees. Chakshu. Chakshu means eyes. Again, chakshu means without eyes. Sa means he. Shrinoti, listens. Akarnaha, without ears. Second line, sa means he. Veti, knows. Vedyam, to be known. Na means not, cha means and, tasya, his. Asti is. Vetaha, knower. Tam, of him. Ahu speak, Agrayam, the foremost, Purusham Mahantam, Purusham the person, Mahantam the great. Without hands and feet, he moves and grasps. Because we grasp with our hands, he can grasp without hands. He sees without eyes and listens without ears. He knows whatever is to be known, but there's none who knows him. He is said to be the foremost person, the great. Okay. Similar mantra, we see it in Kaivalya Upanishad also. God, an enigma. The nature of God is truly mind-boggling. Because the earlier mantra, we saw that with the hands, feet, and heads, they're all his alone. He has eyes and faces everywhere. But over here, it's said that he has no hands and grasps everything, has no ears, but he hears all. No hands, and he can catch anything. No feet, yet he moves everywhere. So mantras like this cause confusion to those who read the Upanishads or scriptures literally. They just like to look at the translation. But with the help of a guru and their own preparation also. It's not only listening to somebody, but their own preparation. We can understand this paradoxical language. The language of the paradox is meant to shatter any concept that mind can understand this truth, or intellect can comprehend it. We got to rise above mind and intellect on this path of direct realization. And that's why in order to prepare ourselves, we need to do meditation, daily meditation. Then all this will come out to us and we'll realize it. Because this is not something to debate about. This is something to experience. So does he have hands or does he not? From his standpoint, he has no hands. But from our standpoint, all hands are his. From his standpoint, he is formless. But when devotee worships him as a form, through that form, devotee is blessed. That's why the devotee forgives, asks for the forgiveness or begs for the forgiveness from God. That I'm making 3 mistakes. Devotee says, knowing that you are all pervading, I still go for the pilgrimages. I'm looking for you at a certain place when I know you are everywhere. Devotee says, please forgive me, my Lord. Then second forgiveness, devotee says, knowing that you are beyond the mind, I still meditate with the mind. And the third forgiveness devotee seeks for is knowing that you cannot be described by the speech. I still sing your praises through hymns. We can try to connect with him only the instruments which have been given to us. But in our heart, we should know the reality also. We have conditionings. God has no conditionings. That's why he's called a nirupadhik. What is a conditioning? Conditioning is that which, remaining near, imposes its qualities on the other. Asamipe sthitva swagun dharman. That is called conditioning. Anne asmin adhyate iti upadhi. So that is called upadhi, conditioning. It's almost like, let me give you an example. I'm wearing a yellow color. If I put a crystal which is all clear, put it near this yellow color, that crystal will look yellow. Even though it's not yellow. It becomes a conditioning upon that clear crystal because it's so close to the color. All conditionings, hands, legs, eyes, or mind function only because of him. Those are the conditioning. Our physical body is a conditioning on the Atma. Our mind is a conditioning on the Atma. Intellect is a conditioning. In our ignorance, we start thinking that those layers are us and we forget who we truly are. In Kathopanishad, he said, Asinoho duram vrajati. Seated, he goes far. We can understand this when we are sitting in a car. We are seated, we are not moving. But car is moving fast. Seated, we can move far. From our standpoint, we are seated in one place, but conditioned by the car. We are seem to be moving. So we generally, we say, I traveled far. So without existence and life, neither the hand can grasp nor the eyes can see. So it is he alone that grasps and sees all. However, the God has no hands or eyes. That's why God is called the ear of the ears, the mind of the mind. In Khetarpal Upanishad, we studied that. Shrotasya shrotavya manasoho manayata. We can recognize that when a person dies, ears are still there, eyes are still there. We cannot see. The power has gone away. God, the unknown. Another interesting aspect of God is that he knows all, yet none can know him. None can know him. The seer knows the seen, and the seen cannot know the seer. For example, the eyes see the objects, but the objects cannot see the eyes. Mind knows what the eyes see. Think about it. But the eyes cannot see what the mind knows. The same way, I, the self, knows what the mind thinks. And the eyes see. But neither the eyes nor the mind can know the I that knows. The self can never become an object of knowledge. That's why we call it a subject, not an object. So God is himself enigmatic in nature, difficult to comprehend by the intellect. Because if we look at the worldly objects, we know them only by objectifying them, either as a vision or as a sound or as a smell, color, form, etc. So, for example, if you want to, somebody says dog, right away you'll have the image of a dog in your mind. Or if somebody talks about the anger or love or compassion, those feelings, we can objectify them. Our ideas can be conceptualized. So they are also objectified by us. But we cannot objectify God or Atma. It is not an image or emotion or a concept. So that's why it remains unknown to us. No words can describe God. But still words got to be used to indicate God. So that's why they are like a pointers towards God. When we say a table image comes to our mind. But when we say infinite, God is infinite, anant, poonam, or when we say timeless, immutable, the intellect is unable to grasp it. So that's why the rishis, they use the term neti. It's like a true negation of the finite, negation of the time bound. They are taking our attention towards the infinite. Because whatever remains is the true meaning of infinite. Then he uses the word agrayam. God the first. In another Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad, the Rishi says that the non-dual existence existed before everything. From God alone, all names and forms emerged. It's like a gold exists before all the gold ornaments. Clay exists before anything can be made out of clay. Another Upanishad we studied, Ishavasya Upanishad. Over there the Rishi said, however fast one may run, God overtakes all, even the mind, and reaches before. Because we think that mind is very fast. God is already there. It wins every race without any movement. How? Because already exists everywhere. Unmoving, he moves. Without eyes, he sees. Without ears, he listens. Then how is this enigmatic and unknowable God can be realized? Because in order to know the objects, we use these upadhis to know. But how do we know God then? Because our goal is to realize God. Let's look at verse number 20. Ano aniyan mahata mahiyan atma guhayam nihita asya jantoh tam akratum pashyati vit shokadhatu prasadat mahimanam isham. Ano means subtlest. Aniyan, subtler. Mahita, greatest. Mahiyan, greater. Atma, the self. Guhayam, in the cave of the heart. Nihita, seated. Asya, of this creature. Asya janto, the creature. Asya means this, janto means the creature. Tam means that self. Akratum, desireless. Pashyati sees, Vit shokaha, free from sorrows. Dhatu, of the pure mind. Prasadat, by the grace. Mehimanam, the greatness. Isham, the Lord. The self is subtler than the subtlest, and the greater than the greatest. It is seated in the cave of the heart of all creatures. One who is free from thoughts and desires sees the greatness of the Lord through the grace of the pure mind. This mantra is also found in the Kathopanishad with a slight difference, but it's there too. God, is he big or small? He says God is bigger than the biggest and the smaller than the smallest. Bigger than the biggest. What do we think is big? Mountain is a big. Earth is bigger than that. Solar system is even bigger than that. All the galaxies, entire universe. God is bigger than that because he is the one who created. He is the one who is enveloping it all. Bigger than the biggest. Mahata Mahiyanaha, all pervading, formless. Substratum of everything is God. Even the all pervading space. Space exists in the minutest object of a nanoscale and also engulfs the countless cosmos also. Space must exist to be able to pervade. And so God pervades even space. Knowing God, how do we know him? Through grace, he says, dhatu prasada. With our own mind and intellect equipment, we cannot know him. Because no matter how small the thing is, God is there too, or how big the thing is, God is bigger than that. So smaller than the smallest and the bigger than the biggest. Eyes reveal colors and forms. And what is the valid means of knowing God is indicated in this Upanishad. He says that he is revealed by the Guru. Dhata means Guru also. Guru is the valid means. That means Guru's grace is very important. He is the one who reveals our infinite nature and helps us to drop the wrong identification with the body and the mind and the intellect. We know that when God incarnates on this earth, they go to a Guru too. We read about Lord Krishna. Sage Sandeepani was his Guru. We read about Lord Ram. He went to his Guru, Visheshta. That's how important Guru is. If God incarnates, we need the Gurus in the human form. Shouldn't we pay attention to it? Dhata also means God, the sustainer and supporter for all. That's why we say that He is the father, He is the mother. He is the grandfather, even the great-grandfather of the world. Going back to Bhagavad Gita again, chapter 9, verse number 17. Pita aham asya jagtaha mata dhata pitama. That's what Lord is. It is the God alone who manifests as the Vedas, and the Guru reveals the truth. So entire world is sustained by His grace. All knowledge takes place because of His blessings. And dhata also means another meaning. In Sanskrit, each word is so deep, full of different meanings. Dhata means mind also. That means only a pure mind can realize God. Pure mind. That's why there's an emphasis on purifying our mind again and again. Because no matter how many efforts you make, with an impure mind, you cannot realize the truth. Yatanto api kritatmanoho nanam pashyanti chetasa. Lord Krishna said that in Gita. A mind which is preoccupied by sorrows and regrets of the past, fears and the worries of the future, and agitations and the attachments in the present is unable to see the truth. So that's why he said, Vit shokaha, a mind free from these, is a fit instrument to know the truth, which is beyond all sorrows. And again, this kratu means desires here. Because desires are the one which agitate our mind. And those desires are the one which prompt us to the actions. So a mind relatively free from desires, akratu, can know God. Lord Krishna even said that desires, that's a gateway to the hell. Desires. So we got to make our mind totally free from desires, akratu. It's interesting to see that Upanishad said that the desireless one sees the truth. Akratu pashyati. And here it's said that the pure-minded sees the desireless truth. So it clearly tells us that definition of a pure mind is a desireless mind. So the grace of God or the Guru coupled with the grace of the pure mind can reveal the great and glorious truth of God. It's available to us for direct realization. So this is the way to realize the truth. And this is what the sadhana is all about. Keep on reducing the worldly desires. Keep on purifying your mind. Keep on increasing the love for God. Keep on doing the duties with the help of this body, but remembering that you are not the doer. You are the Atma. This is the homework for all of us. Let's stop it here. We will finish this chapter next week. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Visheshyate. Om Shanti 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 Om. Thank you very much.